We begin chapter 2 of Ruth with our main characters in really dire circumstances. Yes, Naomi and Ruth had made it back to Naomi's hometown of Bethlehem, but they are still two widows with no protection or means of financial support. In the ancient world, there were no nonprofit agencies or community charities to care for those in need, no hostels or hotels for those who travel. There was only the ancient Mediterranean code of hospitality that to retain one's honor, guests should be cared for by providing them food, drink, and safety. Similarly, the treatment of orphans, widows, and foreigners by the Jewish law was radical. It was unheard of. In chapter 2, we likely see both of these two ancient guides for living intersect. It was astonishing in chapter 1 to hear that Ruth would forsake her own homeland, her own family, her own gods, to remain with Naomi, her mother-in-law. But while Naomi seems to be stuck in her grief, or more likely anger at God, Ruth kicks into gear when they reach Bethlehem. It is fortuitous that they arrive at the beginning of the spring harvest season. First, the barley harvest, and then the spring wheat harvest. On that first day, Ruth, the foreigner, is wise to seek permission from the reapers of a field before she began to glean the field, because gleaning the leftovers was still considered part of harvesting a field, as we can see in this particular story, because there were women hired by the owner of this field to do the gleaning, and they were under his employment, and they would pick up the leftovers the reapers had left behind. It is hard for us to understand the risks Ruth has taken. She is a foreigner, after all, at a time when it was not encouraged for Jews to mix with foreigners. And she was a woman without any man's protection, so her honor and her life were at risk. But serendipitously, a new character enters our story. Boaz, the owner of the field Ruth finds herself gleaning. We read that Boaz is an important man in the community, an honorable man who offers kindness and hospitality to Ruth. So we see that he has earned this reputation of social and economic standing in his community. Through the guidance Boaz gives his reapers, and also later from Naomi's encouragement, Ruth is able to glean more than enough for her own needs as well as Naomi's each day while she remained in the barley harvest and then in the spring wheat harvest as well. Naomi sees God at work in her life once again when she discovers whose field it is Ruth is gleaning. It is one of her husband's relatives, one of his family members, Boaz. Surely God, or Boaz, will redeem her loss and will reverse her bad fortune. And so Ruth keeps gleaning to the end of both harvests. And at the end of chapter 2, we kind of begin where we end where we began. We have two widows who are once again in dire circumstances. They have no means for providing food for themselves or protection from those who wish to take advantage of them. Where is God?